Didn't expect to see you guys today. I was just studying up on John Rockefeller, trying to make sure that I know all of his facts. You know, great man. You know, he's CEO, entrepreneur, CEO of Standard Oil Company. Great man. He's born in Richford, New York on July 8th, 1839. Really, born into a decent family. Wasn't really living in poverty. Wasn't living rich and wealthy either. Uh, he was not really afraid of hard work when he was younger. At the age of 14, he moved with his family to Cleveland, Ohio. He would constantly go on small business ventures when he was younger. He landed his first real job as an assistant bookkeeper with Hewitt and Tuttle, who were commission merchants and produce shippers. By the age of 20, Rockefeller went off on his own and worked as a commission merchant in hay, meat, grains, and other goods. At the end of the company's first year in business, it had grossed over $450,000. It was a pretty successful business right off the bat. He was really careful with his decisions. He didn't really take unnecessary risks. He had his first oil refinery near Cleveland, and after having it for 2 years, it was one of the largest in the area. So that really allowed him to turn his entire focus over to the oil business and the oil industry. Standard Oil was the company that he started with some of his associates. It immediately prospered thanks to economical and really industry conditions. He had a drive to just streamline the company's operations and keep the margins high. He really wanted his company to be successful. Standard Oil Company's moves were really smart and ingenious. He would buy out his competitors and he would buy out the land for lumber and so that his other competitors couldn't build their own pipelines. He completely blew up when it came to the oil industry. He controlled almost every aspect of the business just himself. He had one of the first, what they call trusts, or as we would call it, it was a monopoly. It was like the first American monopoly. When he made it, it served as the guiding light for a bunch of the businesses that would follow behind him. But, of course, with large businesses come problems. So, with such an aggressive push for the industry becoming huge, an act got passed. It was the Sherman Antitrust Act. 2 years after that was passed, the Ohio Supreme Court deemed that Standard Oil Company was in violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act and stood in violation of Ohio laws. So Rockefeller actually had to dissolve the company into a bunch of pieces. And what he did was he took it, spread it apart, and had a bunch of people watch over it in different areas. What he would do was keep really track of it himself and make sure that everything was going fine. But then 9 years after it broke apart, he really brought it back together and became just another version of the oil company. And 9 years after, right after he brought it back together, in 1911, the U.S. Supreme Court declared that the new entity was in violation of the Sherman Antitrust Acts again, and then it had to break apart again. That was really the end of the oil company for Rockefeller. He kind of just retired after that. He was a devout Baptist. He loved everything that he did. He kept himself busy after he retired with charitable efforts, and he would just go out and give money to people. He was an extremely giving person. One of his things that he did was he helped pay for the University of Chicago. He gave over $80 million before he died. He also helped create the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, which was later named Rockefeller University. He gave away more than $530 million towards charitable causes, and which is a lot of money. Obviously, he was one of the richest men in America. In his personal life, he lived with his wife Laura. He had 5 children, including a daughter. Her name was Alice. She died in infancy, which is sad. Rockefeller died May 23rd, 1937, in Long Beach, Florida. His legacy still lives on today, where monopolies had grown and then got shut down and multiple times. His only son, he also named him John. It was John Rockefeller Jr. Uh, he served as a philanthropist also, so he really helped with like charitable things that his father did at the same time. He did a lot of things. He donated a lot of money. He helped with the same kind of causes that his father did. His father was very proud of him while he was still alive. A quote from John D. Rockefeller is, "Don't be afraid to give up the good and go for the great." It can be interpreted in many ways. I personally interpret it as he's saying if you're at this job right here, and then there's this job, and you could be great at this job, but you're good at this job. You don't have to be afraid to leave this job to be super successful in this one. He was a great man. Obviously, he was smart with all of his money. His full name was John Davison Rockefeller, so now you know what the D stands for. And basically, he just had a great life. That's really going to wrap it up today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will leave links in the description for the sources that I used. Also, starting a podcast soon. Hope to have you guys watching that as well. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and yeah, I'll see you guys then. Sorry, wrong door. Why are you still here? Go away.